Right now, as you watch this video, young women in North Korea face the same choice. Sue Ryan faced in 2000 comply or disappear. 24 years later, the Kipum Joe system still operates. Daughters still vanish after elite performances. Mothers still face forced abortions in concrete cells. Sue Ryan's escape across the frozen Tuman River while 9 months pregnant isn't just history, it's a window into a crisis unfolding today. Every detail of her testimony, the black sedan, the numbered tag, the 3-day solitary confinement, the midnight river crossing represents thousands of untold stories, still trapped behind barbed wire. This is her voice, but she speaks for many who cannot. Your subscription amplifies these urgent voices. Join us in making a difference. Hit subscribe and the notification bell. Spring 2000. The lights came on at Pyongyang's Mansudi Art Theater. 3,000 seats packed. I stood alone on that stage. My heart was pounding, but the moment the music started, my body knew what to do. At 20, I was born for this stage. I started dancing at 5. A teacher at my elementary school in Pyongyang saw me and told my mother, "This child needs to dance." From that day, my life became dance. Pyongyang Dance Academy, Pyongyang Music and Dance University, then Mansudae Art Troupe, 15 years devoted to one thing. I joined Mansudae at 19. Hundreds auditioned. 5 made it. I was one of them. The day of my first performance, the senior dancers said, "This stage will change your life." They were right. I just didn't know it would change in the opposite direction. That performance was special. The Supreme Leader himself would be watching. Tension filled the theater. Every face was rigid. One mistake meant the end. Everyone knew it. I was the lead. My partner and I had rehearsed our routine 1,000 times, but my fingers still trembled. The curtain rose. The spotlight found me. The trembling stopped. Music seeped into my body. My feet struck the stage. 3,000 eyes locked on me, but I felt no fear. I felt like I was flying, weightless, free. On that stage, I was free. The final movement. The music stopped. Silence. 1 second. 2. 3. Then the audience erupted. Applause poured down. Cheers filled the theater. Even from the special section where the leader sat, I heard clapping. Bowing on stage, tears fell. 15 years of work, rewarded. The most brilliant night of my life. After the performance, I returned to the dressing room. My colleagues embraced me. The instructor walked in, nodded, and said congratulations. I sat before the mirror, removing my makeup, smiling. Tomorrow would bring better stages, I thought. I dreamed of becoming the troupe's star dancer, touring the world. The dressing room door opened again. Not the instructor. A stranger. Black suit. Blank face. He called my name. "Comrade Sue Ryan, follow me." I asked where we were going. No answer. We walked down the hall, out the theater's back door. A black sedan sat there, engine running. The back door was open. 2 girls already sat inside. Both had the same post-performance look. The moment I got in, the lights inside the theater went dark. Through the rear window, I watched Mansudae Art Theater disappear into darkness. That was the last time I saw that stage. The car left downtown Pyongyang. The lights outside vanished one by one. No one spoke. 5 minutes earlier, I'd been standing at the top of the world, basking in applause. Now I was being pulled into darkness in the back of a black sedan. The tears I'd shed on stage were joy. The tears in the car were something else entirely. The car drove for 3 hours. Long after Pyongyang's lights disappeared completely, we kept going. When we turned onto an unpaved road, the car shook violently. The girl beside me gripped my arm. Nothing was visible outside, just mountains and forests stretching endlessly. Beyond the narrow path lit by headlights, only pitch-black darkness. The car stopped at a concrete building buried deep in the mountains. Barbed wire surrounded it. Armed soldiers stood at the entrance. When I stepped out, the cold mountain air stung my face. Spring, they said, but the night here felt like winter. Inside the building, 12 girls already stood in line. With the 3 of us who arrived late, we were 15 total, all around 20. All beautiful. From art troupes, dance schools, music universities. I learned later that these 15 had been selected from across Pyongyang based on appearance and talent. A female soldier stood before us, mid-40s. Her face held no human warmth. She pulled white name tags with numbers from a box on the table. One by one, she called us forward and pinned them to our chests. "From now on, you have no names. You will be called by number only." That was the first rule of this place. I was number 9. When the pin pierced my chest, I felt a small pain. But what truly hurt wasn't my chest, it was my heart. The name Sue Ryan had been stripped away in an instant. The name that had defined me for 20 years, erased by a single white tag. Gray uniforms were issued. When I changed out of my performance clothes, the person in the mirror became a stranger. With all 15 of us wearing identical clothes, our individuality evaporated. We were no longer dancers, singers, or musicians. We'd become objects managed by number. That night, the female soldier explained, "You have been selected for the Kipum Joe. Your duty is to serve the party, the leader, and high-ranking officials." The moment I heard the word Kipum Joe, the girl beside me collapsed, sobbing. The soldier immediately yanked her up and slapped her face. "Crying is the first thing you must abandon here. If you cry, everyone pays." That one sentence froze the entire dormitory. After lights out, in pitch darkness, someone took my hand. The girl from the next bed. Her trembling fingers transmitted her terror. I was trembling too, but I didn't let go. In this hellish place, holding hands was the only thing we could do. Through the window, I saw the moon. Just hours ago, under that same moon, I'd been receiving applause. I'd believed I stood at the top of the world. From that moment to here, only half a day had passed. But that half day had stolen everything from me. My name, my freedom, my future. Only the moon beyond the bars still connected me to the life I'd known that morning. I stared at that moon and cried without sound. My first night at the guest house. Training started the next day. Wake up at 5 a.m., 17 hours filled without pause until 10 p.m. Morning dance and singing. Afternoon service etiquette and conversation. Evening wardrobe and makeup training. The dance I'd performed on stage was now something completely different. The goal wasn't beauty, it was seduction. Not art. Service. I never imagined the skills I'd honed at Mansudae would be used this way. Each time I followed the trained movements in the mirror, I felt my soul being carved away. After a month of training, the first banquet was held. The moment I entered the annex banquet hall, my breath stopped. A chandelier poured light from the ceiling. Food piled on the tables. Food the people couldn't dream of during the arduous march. Beef, seafood, imported fruit, foreign liquor. While people starved outside, this place overflowed with abundance. Men in military uniforms sat around the tables, uniforms decorated with stars, greasy faces, mouths laughing, tilting glasses. When their eyes swept over us, my skin crawled. They weren't looking at people. They were looking at merchandise. 15 of us stood in a row and bowed. The officials pointed at girls one by one. The man who pointed at me was a general in his early 50s. People's Army Lieutenant General, 3 stars on his uniform. The moment I sat beside him, the smell of alcohol and cigarettes assaulted my nose. When his thick hand gripped my shoulder, revulsion rose beneath my skin. But I couldn't change my expression. As trained, I kept smiling. After that night, the general designated me as his exclusive companion. At every banquet, I was at his side. Once I asked the female soldier to assign me to someone else. What came back? 2 slaps and no meals. Refusal wasn't an option. The real hell began after the banquets ended. Knights summoned to the annex's special rooms. The first time I stood before that door, my legs wouldn't move. The soldier pushed my back. The door closed. I can't put into words what happened inside. Only this: each time I left that room, another light went out in my eyes when I looked in the mirror. The general visited the guest house 3 or 4 times a month. Each time I had to wear red, apply makeup, and smile. He called me pretty, not by name. Like giving a pet name to his possession. I had to become his pretty, not number 9, not Sarayan. Every night when I returned to the dormitory, I stayed in the shower for an hour. I scrubbed until the hot water turned my skin red, but the places he'd touched wouldn't wash clean. It wasn't dirt on my skin. It had soaked into my bones. The other girls were the same. Every night a line formed outside the showers. No one spoke. Only the sound of running water replaced our tears. After 3 months, the general's visits became more frequent, from 3 or 4 times a month to twice a week. The soldier called it an honor. The general is particularly fond of number 9. Serve him well. Hearing those words, nausea rose, but I swallowed it. Showing emotion here was death. Around that time, some of the girls started disappearing. 2 out of 15 vanished within a month. One burst into tears at a banquet. The other resisted an official. None who disappeared ever came back. The soldier never mentioned them. We didn't dare ask. In a guest house where fear had become routine, I was perfecting the art of smiling to survive. It was survival. It was also slowly dying. 8 months at the guest house. The morning I woke up, nausea hit me like a wave. I jumped out of bed, ran to the bathroom. I knelt before the toilet and vomited, but only stomach acid came up. I hadn't eaten properly the night before. At first I thought it was indigestion. The guest house meals were sufficient in quantity, but inconsistent in quality, and my stomach had weakened. But the vomiting continued the next day, and the day after. Running to the bathroom every morning went on for over a week. Other changes appeared. My chest hurt. I became sensitive to smells. My period stopped. Even without medical knowledge, I recognized the signs. But I didn't want to accept it. Acceptance would make it real. I was too young, only 20, to face the result of those nights with the general. I tried to hide the vomiting. I woke before morning roll call to use the bathroom. When nausea rose during training, I gritted my teeth and endured it. But the body doesn't lie. My face turned pale. Twice during training, I collapsed from dizziness. I felt the other girls' gazes shift. On the second week, I vomited again during training. I couldn't hide it anymore. The soldier called me forward, her cold eyes scanning me up and down. Go to the infirmary. That was all she said. The infirmary was in the basement of the main building. In a narrow room with flickering fluorescent lights, a military doctor sat. A brief examination. The doctor wrote something on a form and handed it to the soldier. While the soldier read, I sat in a chair, fists clenched. I watched her expression change. Not surprise. Not anger. Annoyance. You're pregnant. The soldier folded the form. Her voice was emotionless, like announcing a defect in a machine part. Hearing those words, my mind went blank. I'd known but pretended not to. Now, from another's mouth, it became real. The soldier asked whose child it was. I didn't answer. No need. She knew the general had designated me as his exclusive companion. She nodded and told me to leave. Further instructions will follow, she said. Walking back down the hallway to the dormitory, my legs gave out. I leaned against the wall and slowly sank to the floor. I placed my hand on my belly. My belly hadn't swollen yet, but I could feel life inside, transmitted through my palm. The fact that it was the general's child disgusted me, yet simultaneously the sense that this being growing inside me was connected to me, that was something entirely different. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I wondered, what will happen to this child? I'd heard rumors about what happened to girls who got pregnant at the guest house. One of the disappeared girls' pregnancy was the reason, they said. My hand on my belly began to tremble. I wanted to protect this child. I was terrified this child might kill me. That night at 20 was both endless and cruel. 3 days after my pregnancy was reported, the soldier summoned me. A small office on the second floor of the main building. A single document lay on the desk. The soldier leaned back in her chair looking up at me. Her eyes held no sympathy. No anger, only bureaucratic coldness. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. you go to the infirmary. She spoke. Surgery will proceed. The child will be removed. Matter of fact. Like reading a schedule. She didn't ask my opinion. I asked if the general knew. She shook her head. He doesn't need to know. This kind of thing, we handle it and move on. The meaning was clear. The fact that it was the general's child would remain secret. The child would be erased as if it never existed. Leaving the office, walking down the hall, my legs weakened. I had to grip the wall. Tomorrow it ends. This life inside me, tomorrow it disappears. That knowledge crushed my chest. Returning to the dormitory, sitting on the bed, my hand moved to my belly without thinking. That's when I felt it. A tiny movement. Something shifted inside, quickening. The first time I felt the baby move. A small life beneath my palm, announcing its presence. I'm alive. I'm here. In that moment, something shattered. Or rather, something was born. The emotions that had died since arriving at the guest house exploded back to life with that single tiny movement from inside my belly. I can't kill this child. Not because it was the general's, because it was a life breathing inside me. That night I couldn't sleep. Staring at the ceiling, thousands of thoughts raced through my mind. What would happen if I refused surgery? I'd be locked in solitary or disappear, one or the other. But lying on an operating table and killing this child would be like killing myself with my own hands. By dawn, I had reached my conclusion. I would refuse. Whatever happened, I would protect this child. The moment I made that decision, strangely, the fear vanished. The terror that had crushed me every night since arriving at the guest house melted away with one kick from the baby in my belly. Morning came. After roll call, the soldier came to get me. Let's go to the infirmary. It's time. I followed her down the hall. Step by step, the distance to the infirmary shrank. My heart was racing, but my steps grew firmer. We arrived at the infirmary. Through the green metal door, I saw the operating table. The military doctor stood waiting, pulling on gloves. The soldier opened the door. "Go in." I stood at the threshold looking inside. The cold metal table, sharp instruments, white light under fluorescent bulbs. The baby moved again inside me, as if confirming my resolve. I didn't move. Then I opened my mouth. "I won't do it." The moment those 3 words left my lips, the air in the guest house froze. I won't do it. After those words echoed down the hall, 3 seconds of silence. The soldier's face slowly hardened. Her eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, looking up at me. "What did you say?" "Low, dangerous." "I won't do it." I said it again. My voice trembled, but I didn't look away. Her hand rose. She slapped me. My head snapped to the side, but my feet didn't move. A second slap. I tasted blood. 2 soldiers were called. They grabbed my arms, started dragging me into the infirmary. My feet slid on the floor. I felt my whole body being pulled. In that moment, I collapsed to the ground. With all my strength, I pressed my body to the floor, wrapped both arms around my belly. They'll have to kill me to move me. That determination filled my entire being. The soldiers yanked my arms. Pain like my shoulders would dislocate, but I didn't let go. I couldn't release my arms from around my belly. If I let go, the baby dies. That thought alone filled my mind. The soldier shouted, "Get her up now." The soldiers pulled harder. I screamed, but that scream wasn't from pain. It was rage. 20 years of accumulated rage, everything I'd swallowed since being dragged to the guest house, everything I'd buried while enduring the general's nights, all of it erupted at once. My voice echoed down the hall. I won't do it." I shouted it over and over. My throat felt like it would tear, but I couldn't stop. The other girls must have been watching through cracks in the dormitory door, but no one came out. They couldn't. If they did, they'd be dragged away too. I don't know how long the struggle lasted. 10 minutes, maybe 30. Finally, the soldier raised her hand. She ordered the soldiers, "Put her in solitary." With that command, the direction of the pulling force changed. Not toward the infirmary, the opposite hallway. I was being dragged toward solitary. Solitary was in the basement of the main building, down a narrow staircase, through a metal door, a 3-square-meter concrete room. No windows, no lights, a space not meant for human habitation. The moment the metal door closed, all light in the world disappeared. I sank to the floor. The coldness of concrete rose through my thighs. Darkness pressed in from all sides. But strangely, I wasn't afraid. This darkness was better than the terror I'd felt in front of the operating room. At least here, they couldn't take my baby. I placed both hands on my belly. In the darkness, the baby's presence was my only warmth. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm sorry for bringing you into this world. But at the same time, I made a promise. I will keep you alive. No matter what, I will protect you." In that concrete cell, at 20, I became a mother for the first time. Not number 9, this child's mother. The first night in solitary was filled with sounds. Wind beyond the concrete walls. Water dripping somewhere. My heartbeat. Eyes open or closed, the same darkness. Nothing to mark the passage of time. A day, half a day, my senses couldn't tell. No water. No food. A single line of light came through the gap under the door, but nothing else connected me to the outside world. Thirst came first. Within half a day, my throat felt like it was burning. After a day, my lips cracked. Hunger came next. Pain from my stomach contracting, but I worried about the baby more than myself. What happens to a baby in the womb without nourishment? Even without medical knowledge, I knew instinctively a few more days like this and the baby would be in danger. Maybe they're trying to starve us to death in here, instead of on the operating table. By the second day, dizziness started. Even sitting against the wall was difficult. When I lay on the floor, the cold concrete seeped through my back into my bones. I curled up, protecting my belly. I had to preserve the baby's warmth. In the darkness, something strange happened. Images appeared before my eyes. Memory or hallucination, I couldn't tell. Mansudae Art Theater's stage. Lights came on. Music flowed. 20-year-old me in white clothes, dancing. Applause poured from the audience. My mother was crying. The scene was so vivid I felt like I could touch it if I reached out. But my fingers only met cold concrete. Third night. As consciousness blurred, I felt movement in my belly. Quickening. Despite my weakened body, the baby was alive, moving. The sensation of a kick reached my palm. Once, twice, 3 times. Like saying, "Mom, I'm okay. I'm here." In that moment, tears fell. Tears that hadn't come for 3 days burst forth with one kick from the baby. I cried in the darkness, arms around my belly. But these tears weren't sadness. They were gratitude. 3 days without water or food, lying on concrete, but this child was alive, and I was grateful. I'll keep you alive. Leaning against the concrete wall, both hands on my belly, I whispered, I will. We'll get out of here. Together. In the darkness, my words to the baby flowed like prayer. When we get out of this cell, we'll escape. I'll give birth to you somewhere free. There, I'll give you a name. Fourth morning, the metal door opened. Light too bright to look at poured in. The soldier's voice, come out. I tried to stand, but collapsed. My legs had no strength. A soldier grabbed my arm, pulled me up. Walking down the hall, I looked around. The world I saw after 3 days was blindingly bright, but inside me, something burned even brighter. Determination. I will leave this guest house. I will survive with this child. That flame hadn't gone out. After leaving solitary, I was reassigned to the dormitory. No more talk of surgery. I don't know what decision the soldier made. Perhaps forcing surgery on a near-term pregnant woman was too much of a burden. Or maybe the report went up to the general and different orders came down. Whatever the reason, what mattered was that the baby in my belly was safe for now. But I couldn't relax. The question was what would happen after I gave birth. If I had the baby at the guest house, the baby would be sent somewhere and I'd be put back into rotation at banquets. I couldn't even be sure the baby would be kept alive. A child born here was a secret, and secrets here had a set method of disposal. I decided to escape a week after leaving solitary. I had to keep the promise I'd made to the baby in that cell. We'll get out. Together. But escaping over barbed wire and mountains. With a near-term pregnancy, it seemed impossible. 8 months pregnant, my belly hugely swollen, my strength drained after solitary. For a week, I observed the guest house structure, guard shift times, patrol routes, weak points in the barbed wire. I memorized it all. Every night through the window, I tracked the guards' movements. Shift changes midnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m. During the changeover, a 3-minute gap appeared. The problem was the barbed wire. I'd have to cross the double fence surrounding the entire guest house. Between the inner and outer fences, about 3 meters of space. No tools. I'd have to climb barehanded, with a full-term belly. I set the date, the dark of the moon when no full moon would illuminate the night. During the day in the dormitory, I tore a blanket into strips of cloth to wrap around my hands when gripping the barbed wire to reduce injury. It wasn't perfect preparation, but I didn't have time to wait. My belly kept growing, and the closer I got to delivery, the harder escape would be. That night came. 2 hours after lights out, I waited. After the midnight shift ended, just before the 3 a.m. shift began, I'd target that 3-minute gap. 2:55 a.m., I rose from bed. My heart felt like it would burst, but my hands moved precisely. I unlocked the window latch, slipped outside. Barefoot. Shoes would make noise. I crossed the grass toward the barbed wire. 3 minutes. In that time, I had to cross the double fence. I touched the inner fence. Despite the cloth wrapping, barbs dug into my flesh. I gritted my teeth, pulled myself up. My belly caught on the wire. Tearing pain, but making a sound meant the end. I knew that. I cleared the first fence. My clothes ripped. Blood ran from my arms, but I couldn't stop. The second fence, same method. The last barb caught my clothes. For a moment I froze, then tore the fabric free and dropped. Outside. I stood barefoot beyond the guest house perimeter. I didn't look back. I ran into the mountains. As fast as my full-term body would allow, I ran through the darkness. Tree branches scratched my face. Rocks tore my feet, but I didn't feel it. Only one thought: I have to get as far as possible with this child. Behind me, the guest house lights grew smaller. About an hour into the mountain, I heard sounds behind me. Dogs barking. Guard dogs. They discovered I was missing. My heart froze. If the dogs tracked my scent, no matter how far I ran, capture was just a matter of time. Instinctively, I changed direction. Heading down the mountain, there would be a stream, I guessed. I'd heard as a child that water erases scent. I slid down a steep slope. My full-term belly pulled me forward, making balance difficult. But I gripped tree trunks and made it down. I saw the stream, a narrow ribbon of water flowing between rocks. Without hesitation, I stepped in. The moment my foot touched water, it felt like electricity through my body, near freezing water. In a North Korean mountain valley between fall and winter, the water cut to the bone. Waist deep, I walked upstream. I guessed the pursuers would search downstream. With each step in the water, my feet hit rocks and bled, but I didn't feel it. My whole body was already going numb. Then severe pain struck my belly. Contraction from the cold water. My full-term uterus reacted to the cold, a clenching sensation tearing through my lower abdomen. My knees buckled. I almost fell forward into the water. I grabbed a rock, barely held on. Was the baby coming or just a contraction? I couldn't tell. I had no medical knowledge. One thing was certain: staying in this water much longer would endanger the baby. I gritted my teeth, climbed out of the water. I hid in a crevice between rocks beside the stream. My wet clothes began freezing in the mountain wind. My teeth chattered uncontrollably. I curled up, wrapped both arms around my belly. I had to preserve the baby's warmth. The dog sounds grew closer. Flashlight beams swept the mountainside above. The pursuit team had come down near the stream. I held my breath. My heartbeat seemed to echo off the rocks. Flashlight beams swept over the rocks. Once, twice. The third beam stopped near the crevice where I hid. That moment felt like eternity. Maybe 3 seconds, maybe 30. The light probed around the rocks, then slowly moved away. The dog barks also faded. The stream water had erased my scent. As I exhaled, strength drained from my body, but I had to move. The pursuit team might circle back. I raised my wet body, started walking into the mountains again, direction northeast, toward the Tuman River. My bare feet had already lost sensation. Mountain wind cut through my torn clothes, but I moved forward step by step. The baby in my belly kicked weakly, a sign of life. That was enough. As long as this child lived, I couldn't stop. I walked for 2 days. During the day, I hid in the forest to rest. I only moved at night. Food acorns and plant roots I found in the mountains. Water scooped from streams with my hands. Crossing mountains with a full-term pregnancy was agony beyond imagination. Every step, my belly sagged downward. Lower back pain climbed to unbearable levels. Third day dawn. Below the mountain, I saw a small village, a remote farming village near the North Hamgyong border region. About 10 thatched-roof, mud-walled houses clustered together. I hesitated whether to go down. Meeting people meant risk of discovery, but my body had reached its limit. I couldn't walk anymore. I hadn't given the baby nourishment in 3 days. When I stood before a farmhouse at the village edge, the sun was just rising. I knocked on the wooden door. After a long wait, it opened. An elderly farmer, maybe 70, peeked out. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened. Barefoot, covered in blood, torn clothes, full-term belly. My appearance needed no explanation. The farmer shouted inside, "Old woman, come quick." The grandmother came out, saw me, covered her mouth. "Oh, good heavens, what happened to you?" The two of them helped me inside. When they laid me on the warm ondel floor, 3 days of tension released all at once. My consciousness faded. When I opened my eyes, the grandmother was cooking rice porridge. Holding the warm bowl, drinking, tears wouldn't stop. After 3 days without food, when warmth entered my body, the baby inside responded, kicking vigorously. The grandmother looked at my belly. "You'll deliver soon. Your belly's dropped." She asked what happened, but I couldn't give details. I only said, "I escaped. I need to cross the border." The farming couple didn't ask more. Living in North Korea, their whole lives, they knew asking questions brings trouble. I rested at that farmhouse for 2 days, ate the grandmother's meals, slept on the ondel. For the first time in 3 days, I closed my eyes somewhere warm, but I couldn't rest easy. The guest house would have sent pursuers. It was only a matter of time before the search expanded to this area. Second evening, the farmer rushed in. State security people came to the village. They're going house to house looking for suspicious people. My face went white. If I stayed, the farming couple would be arrested too. The farmer spoke. From here, northeast, 1 day's walk to the Tuman River. Across the river is China. Follow this path, you'll find a crossing point. With rough hands, he drew a map in the dirt. The grandmother handed me 2 rice balls and a padded winter coat. "I'm sorry I can't do more." Tears filled her eyes. Leaving, I looked back. The elderly couple stood in the doorway watching me. 2 people whose names I didn't know had risked their safety to hide a full-term fugitive. I bowed, deeply. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to repay this kindness. But I vowed that if I lived and gave birth to this child, I would remember them. As I walked back into the mountain path that night, I heard the grandmother's small voice behind me. "Please go safely." Those words lingered in my ears for a long time. One day after leaving the farmhouse, I reached the Tuman River. Eating the 2 rice balls sparingly, I walked all night. I had to reach the riverbank before sunrise. Standing by the river in daylight would get me caught by border guards. Around 3 a.m., I emerged from the forest. Before me, the river, the Tuman. Upstream, so the width was narrow but still looked about 30 meters. Half the river was frozen, the other half black water flowing. I'd have to cross a river not fully frozen. Across the river, faint lights. China. Freedom was just 30 meters away, but that 30 meters felt like the distance between hell and heaven. With a full-term belly, I had to cross a river mixed with ice and water. I tightened my clothes as much as possible, wrapped the grandmother's coat tightly around my belly to keep the baby warm. I had no shoes, but in the water it didn't matter. Descending to the riverbank, I prayed. I'd never believed in God, but in that moment I wanted to hold on to anything. The moment I took my first step, the world stopped. When my foot touched the ice, it felt like electricity shooting up from my soul. Minus 30-degree cold rose from my toes up my legs. I gritted my teeth, moved forward. About 10 steps in, the ice ended and water began. Ankle, knee, thigh, waist. With each rise in water level, it felt like my breath would stop. A shock like my heart stopping shot through my entire body. My brain sent the command, turn back, but my legs moved forward. Halfway across, the ice beneath my feet broke. I plunged waist deep into the water. Cold water wrapped around my belly. The baby began moving violently. The shock of the cold. Water my uterus contracting. A sensation striking my lower abdomen. A scream burst out. But making sound would bring the border guards. I clamped my mouth shut. 2 arms around my belly, I held on in the water. The baby kicked. Still alive. It's okay. Mom's protecting you. Just hold on a little longer. I repeated it in my mind, moved 1 foot forward. Water rose to my chest. I felt my body temperature dropping rapidly. Sensation left my fingertips. My vision began to blur. I'm going to die here, I thought. But the baby kicked again. That one kick grabbed my fading consciousness. I gritted my teeth, moved forward, dragging my legs through water step by step. I don't know how long I walked. When something hard touched my fingers, it took several seconds to recognize it as a rock on the riverbank, the Chinese side. With both arms, I grabbed the rock, pulled myself up. Lying on the riverbank, I felt like my breath would stop, but I was alive. The baby in my belly was alive too. I curled my frozen body, wrapped my arms around my belly, and on Chinese soil, I cried for the first time, out loud until I could barely breathe, my first tears on free land. I don't know how long I lay on the riverbank. As consciousness flickered, I heard a voice. Korean. Oh my, it's a person. A woman's voice came closer. Warm hands gripped my shoulder. I opened my eyes. A woman about 50 was looking at my face. Ethnic Korean. She'd come to the riverside early in the morning to get water and found me. Seeing my condition, she immediately understood. Wet clothes. Full-term belly. Across the river in North Korea. No explanation needed. The woman helped me to my feet. I couldn't walk. My legs were frozen numb. The woman practically carried me, though I was bigger than her, to the village. She opened the door to a small farmhouse. The moment I stepped inside, Ondal warmth enveloped me. Only then did I realize how cold my body had been. The woman's name was Sunja, an ethnic Korean woman living alone in this village. Her husband had died years ago. Her children had moved to the city and rarely contacted her. Sunja laid me on the Ondal, removed my wet clothes, dressed me in dry ones. She wiped my whole body with a towel soaked in hot water. As the warm towel touched my frozen skin, sensation returned like needles piercing. She cooked rice porridge. Spooning it into my mouth, Sunja said, "Eat slowly. If you eat too fast, you'll get sick." The warmth in her voice brought tears, but I tried not to cry. Crying seemed bad for the baby. But that evening, something unexpected began. Periodic pain struck my lower abdomen. At first, I thought it was aftermath from contractions crossing the river, but the pain intervals shortened. 30 minutes. 20. 15. Sunja looked at my face. "This is labor." The word labor made my vision go dark. 2 weeks before my due date, the cold Tuman River water had triggered premature labor. I needed a hospital, but couldn't go. If a North Korean defector went to a Chinese hospital, they'd immediately report to the Public Security Bureau and I'd be sent back. Sunja made a decision. "You'll give birth here. I'll help." She said she'd served as a midwife in the village before. She spread a blanket on the kitchen floor, started boiling hot water. Preparing towels and scissors, Sunja's hands were trembling too, but those trembling hands were the only hands in the world I could trust. Labor intervals shortened to 5 minutes. Each wave of pain felt like the world was shrinking. I gritted my teeth, but screams escaped. Sunja held my hand. "Don't scream. The neighbors will hear." At those words, I bit my lip. Hiding a defector like me put Sunja in danger too. The night deepened. Labor intensified. Intervals shortened to 3 minutes. 2, 1. On that kitchen floor, gripping the blanket, I lived through the longest night of my life. Past midnight, labor peaked. My whole body felt like it was tearing. Pain like waves, consciousness threatening to vanish, then receding. Sunja sat between my knees, hands ready. "Push, I can see it!" I heard Sunja's voice. I pushed. Gathered all my body's strength to my belly. The strength that endured 3 days in solitary. The strength that crossed barbed wire. The strength that crossed the Tuman River. Everything I'd gathered over these months to stay alive poured out in this moment. I knew I couldn't scream, but I bit my lip until it bled. Once, twice, 3 times. Each push the world turned white, then came back. 4th push I felt something slip out. Then Sunja's voice. "It's out, cry, cry!" 1 second of silence. Then a cry erupted. Small but strong. The first sound made in this world. The baby's cry filled the small kitchen. When Sunja wrapped the baby in a towel and placed it on my chest, I forgot everything. A boy. Small red face, eyes squeezed shut, fists clenched, crying the most beautiful sight in the world. The moment I held him, his crying quieted. Maybe he felt my warmth, heard my heartbeat, I don't know. But the baby stopped crying and pressed his face to my chest. Tears poured out. The tears I'd swallowed at the guest house, in solitary, in the Tuman River, they all burst forth at once. But these tears were different from any before. Not tears of pain. Joy. Pure, overwhelming joy. This child alive in my arms, that was joy. Sunja was crying too. Wiping tears with a towel, she said, "You did well. The baby's healthy. You did so well." At those words, I cried again. Lying on the kitchen floor, holding my newborn, a 20-year-old woman crying, and beside her a 50-year-old ethnic Korean woman crying with her. That small farmhouse kitchen in a remote corner of China became the most sacred place on earth that night. I nursed him. The baby instinctively found my nipple, began sucking. Watching his small mouth move, I remembered the promise I'd made in solitary to give this child a name. I wanted to capture the meaning of freedom. This child was born in a free place, or rather, across the river toward freedom. But I couldn't feel safe. The baby's cries might have leaked outside. Sunja spoke. "You can't stay long. Public security patrols this area constantly. You have to leave in 2 or 3 days." The reality hit. I'd have to run again with a newborn baby. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Compared to crossing the Tuman River with this child in my belly, I could do anything. In Sunja's kitchen, holding my newborn son, I felt freedom for the first time. The name stolen at the guest house, the time called by number, the general's nights before this baby's cry, none of it mattered. Not number 9. I'd reclaimed the name Sue Ryan as this child's mother. 2 days after giving birth, I had to leave Sunja's house. My body still suffered from childbirth aftermath. Walking was difficult, but I couldn't ignore Sunja's warning that public security patrols might reach this village. Sunja gave me a broker's contact information, someone in Yanbian who helped defectors. I tied the newborn to my chest. In a carrier Sunja made, I wrapped the baby tightly against my body. The baby's heartbeat reached my chest. My warmth wrapped around him. As long as I have this child, I can go anywhere. I was certain. At the door, Sunja kissed the baby's forehead. "Grow up healthy. This child will have good fortune." Then she pressed an envelope into my hand. Inside, 300 yuan in Chinese money. For an old woman living alone, that was considerable. I tried to refuse, but Sunja gripped my hand. "Take it. Use it for the baby." The warmth of her hand stayed with me. It took 2 days to reach the broker. During the day, I hid in the mountains, nursed the baby. I only moved at night. The baby was remarkably quiet. Inside the carrier, listening to my heartbeat, he slept most of the time. But when hungry, he cried. That small cry sounded loud as a siren in the night silence. When crying started, I immediately nursed him. Once he latched on, the crying stopped. But my milk wasn't sufficient. I hadn't eaten properly after giving birth. When the baby cried while nursing, my heart felt like it would tear. The broker was a 40-year-old ethnic Korean man. He said 300 yuan wasn't enough. But seeing the baby, he sighed. "With a baby, the Southeast Asia route is impossible. I'll take you south by train, hand you to a missionary. Pay me back later." Taking the train was most dangerous. Public security conducted inspections at every station. The broker made me a forged ID. I posed as an ethnic Korean woman. With the baby wrapped in the carrier, hat pulled low, I boarded the train. My heart rose to my throat, but I had to keep my face ordinary. On the train, the baby started crying. A Chinese woman in the next seat looked over. I lowered my head, nursed him. The baby latched on. Crying stopped, but my pounding heart wouldn't stop. 3 days by train to Kunming. During those 3 days, the baby cried 5 times. 5 times I nursed him to silence. In Kunming, the broker handed me to a Korean missionary. The missionary was a woman in her 50s. Seeing me and the baby, she embraced me without words. Her arms felt warm like a mother's. With the missionary's help, I passed through Laos to Thailand. The moment I entered the South Korean embassy in Thailand, my legs gave out. I collapsed. It's over. It's finally over. Looking down at the baby in my arms, I whispered, "We did it." Mom kept her promise. The baby slept, oblivious to the world. The escape that began at the guest house, crossing the Tuman River, traversing China, passing through Southeast Asia, thousands of kilometers carrying this child, it was finally over. I arrived in South Korea in spring 2001. Landing at Incheon Airport, the baby in my arms opened his eyes. 3 months old. Seeing the airport's bright lights for the first time, his eyes widened. I felt the same. Standing under those lights, I realized for the first time how bright the land of freedom was. After a resettlement education at Hanawan, I rented a small room in Seoul. Life began just the baby and me. During the day, I worked at a factory. At night, I held the baby and slept. It was hard, but I wasn't unhappy. Every time I looked at my baby's face, I remembered the promise I'd made in solitary darkness. The fact that I'd kept that promise kept me going. I named the baby Junha, a child given by heaven. What else could this child be but heaven's gift, surviving the guest house, solitary, the Tuman River, and reaching my arms? Junha grew strong. The first years were a battle with nightmares. Every night, the guest house banquet hall appeared in my dreams. The general's face rose from darkness. I'd wake screaming. The baby would be crying. Holding him, comforting him, I'd calm down too. Did the baby save me, or did I save the baby? I don't know. Probably we saved each other. When Junha reached school age, I agonized over what to tell him. If he asked, "Who's my father?" what should I answer? After much thought, I reached a conclusion. I'd tell the truth. When he was old enough to understand, I wouldn't hide anything. I'd tell him everything. The year Junha turned 16, I told him everything. Pyongyang stage, Kipum Joe, the guest house, the general, solitary, barbed wire, the Tuman River. For 2 hours, he listened without a word. When the story ended and Junha raised his head, tears filled his eyes. Then he said one thing, "Thank you, Mom, for keeping me alive." At those words, I pulled him close and cried for a long time. Junha is 24 this year. He studies law at a Seoul university. He's grown into a young man deeply interested in North Korean human rights. What I experienced influenced his dreams, but I never taught revenge or anger. I only spoke the truth. Every year when the first snow falls, Junha and I look north together. We climb somewhere high in Seoul, stand there gazing at the northern sky. I remember that night crossing the Tuman River. That moment in minus 30-degree water, arms around my belly, teeth gritted. Junha stands beside me, holding my hand. It's still hard to believe that hand belonged to the small life, kicking my belly in that river. The baby who cried his first cry on that kitchen floor is now a young man taller than me, holding my hand. Sometimes I think of Sunja, the woman who saved me in that small farmhouse in remote China. I don't know if she's alive, if she's well. Same with the farming couple in North Hamgyong. I don't even know their names. Without those people's hands, Junha and I wouldn't be here. I have no news of the girls who were with me at the guest house. Of the 15, I don't know how many survived, if any escaped. I know nothing. But every night I pray for them, that they're alive, that somewhere they're breathing. Junha once asked, "Mom, what would have happened if you'd let go of me in the Tuman River?" I answered, "I couldn't let go. You kicked, so I couldn't." That one kick from inside my belly, it saved Mom. Junha smiled. In that smile, 24 years were contained. A long journey from the darkness of the guest house to the sunlight of Seoul, all of it melted into that one smile.